Okay, hi guys, hi everyone. Thank you for coming. This is a big turnout. I'm really excited to go over some stuff with you. My name is Miss Nikki Jean, and we are going to go over how to work with your ancestors and a bunch more other things. Before we get into working with the ancestors, there's two big important factors we have to think about is, do we believe in an afterlife? Does everybody in here believe that something happens to us when we pass, or is it pretty much? Because if not, I mean, there's no problem, there's no judgment-free zone, but this probably isn't the work for you. You have to have a belief or faith that something happens to us when we pass. And then the second thing to think about is, what is your afterlife? Do you believe in heaven and hell? Do you believe that spirits just linger in the nature? Do you believe that everyone is enlightened and goes into a happy place? Or is there like a judgment call? It depends on the culture that you're from. Where I'm curious to think what some of you guys think. Do you guys believe in heaven and hell? Who believes in heaven and hell? That's what I want to know. Okay, so you believe there's a good judgment. Who doesn't know? But they just know that there's an afterlife. Okay. Do you believe that there's like a judgment factor when someone passes? If you were good in this life, you are going to have a happy life? Yeah.
Personally, I don't believe in basically like a judgment, but I do believe in like a life review. Basically like where you go through and your guide shows you your whole life and basically how you made other people feel as well as animals and things.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Do you guys think that do you think people who are bad go to a bad place in the afterlife?
I like to kind of draw on, although I'm not Catholic, I like the idea of purgatory and just like a use it in the darkness. And
do you think there's redemption in the afterlife if you were bad?
I hope there can be, but I bet not everybody accepts it or wants to go through it.
Okay.
I feel like they keep karmically going on to the same experience.
The same life. Yeah, also reincarnation. Do you guys believe in reincarnation? Okay. And these are important things to think about when connecting with your ancestors, because you're going to be connecting, like, where's your avenue? Are you going to hell to talk to them? Are you going to the spirit realm? Like, where are they and how you can communicate? Those are just seeds I'm going to plant because that's your avenue. For me personally, I grew up speaking to the dead. Is the first thing I've ever done, I would say, as a medium. We're going to talk about dead and death a lot, so hopefully everyone's comfortable with that. And I would just pray and talk. When my great aunt passed away when I was 8, I just talked to her all the time, and I felt like my version of afterlife is my ancestors are hovering over me in a cloud in castles. And when I need them, I light a candle like a Batman signal, and they come and help me. I have specific. I mean, they came out today. I'm moving, so otherwise I wasn't sure if I was going to bring my altar, but they were cool with it. It's actually a lot bigger. But these are people who I revere and I trust in guiding me through this personal life right now. Okay, so who are your ancestors? There's three big ones: the blood ancestors, your DNA, your chosen ancestors. So those are people who, if you're adopted, and you don't have a family, and you have no way of getting that information, who are you going to go to? And then I call them inspirational ancestors. Those who say you're a musician and you love, I don't know, Tom Petty just passed, so you can call on him to help you write music. And we're going to go over all of those. But blood ancestors are number one. Has anybody done like family genealogy research okay, cool. How far back have you guys gone? Damn. Is that like what country? Scotland? Okay. Anybody else?
I am actually. My aunt traced this all the way back. Now, there's millions of people on the planet who can claim that.
Yeah. No, but that's a badass ancestor to have as like a warrior, somebody fighting for independence.
I got back to 1050.
Damn. Okay, yeah, where? England?
I'm more British than some of the British. According to DNA.
Some countries and cultures have kept really good records of those who immigrated to. So if you're Catholic, the Catholics love to make sure that who you were, because you got to pay taxes to the church back home. So follow the money, I always say. Anybody else? How far? I'm curious. Yeah.
1700s.
And Germany? Do you know the town?
No, not without. I don't even know how to pronounce
Okay. For me, I'm Italian, French, and Black. On the French side, we've gone to like 1600s. The Italian side, 1800s. And the Black side, if anyone is African American, is very difficult. So up until 1865, after the Civil War, that's when they started recording African American names. So there is a big wall of like documentation, and same if you're Native American. That is very difficult to find, because if you did become American, you had to strip your identity as a Native American, get an American name. A lot of them just, forgot who they were just due to it was easier that way. So that history is hard, but we're going to go over how to kind of connect with that if you do. Does anybody have Native American DNA or know that they're, do you know what tribes? Okay. Okay. Where's Blackfoot? You don't know where it's from? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't feel like that. Okay. Anybody else have Native American? Oh, yeah. Cherokee? Okay. That's very common in this area in the South, Southeast. Cherokee, Creek, Choctaw, Seminole. And yeah, you'll find as they started taking the lands away, it's an ugly history, to be honest with you. So connecting with those, so who is adopted here too? I want to see, we talked, anybody else adopted or have adopted parents? Okay. Have you done any like DNA, like blood testing? Okay. So for those who are adopted, is that something you'd want to do to kind of connect?
I've done some, and it's only recently started to sort of connect. And I may have some native on the Puerto Rican side of my family.
Okay.
But so I'm starting to get some of that connection, but it's been such a huge wall, just like
it's hard
and spiritually, and it's like, wait, what if I don't want to connect with them either? What if they're also racist assholes? So it's a weird thing to be able to connect with it and then decide if you want to
go further. Yeah.
So it's like I may want to connect through some of that, but also just find connections that feel right for me through this type of work, which always fascinated me, but I didn't know how to connect to it.
Yeah. Ultimately, you have the choice of who you want to connect with. We all, like, every family has horrible people. We're on, not every human being is like peaceful and love and light. So it's your choice. So the chosen ancestors, those are, again, for adopted people who want to connect with the adoptive family, where they're from. A lot of people do like sororities or fraternities. I was a Girl Scout, so sometimes when I'm camping, I'll connect with my Girl Scout ancestors because I hate camping. But any group of people that support you and love you, you can use those as your ancestors. It doesn't have to be a blood. And sometimes, a lot of people got forced away from their family, not just adoption, but through war, through violence, foster care system, or their family is, their living family are dysfunctional. I definitely want to touch on that. If you have a dysfunctional or abusive family in this living life, and you just do not want to relate to, you're more than just your grandparents. So I highly encourage you to go further back to see where, if anything hits, you got to use your intuition to kind of guide you, like, okay, I feel safe with this great-great-great-grandfather. Also, it helps, sorry, I kind of forgot, for blood ancestries, your medical health. So you can find out, like, if you have any mental health diseases, your physical features, diseases that you're kind of prone to in your family. I found out my family has a history of diabetes, a lot of alcoholics. So I don't put alcohol for my family because they just be drinking. So, yeah, they get tea or coffee. But you kind of want to find out, like, how people pass and if there is addiction in, or, mental health. Say that you have anxiety, you just don't know where it comes from. It's probably a trait passed down to from your ancestors. And then there's inspirational ancestors. For me, I like to use Harriet Tubman. She's with me. She's actually hanging in my car. I brought her out. But those are people that you just, who are real life, that you just find inspiration for, whether it's your work, your job. You find them empowerment. A lot of saints, a lot of people who work with saints are really great because they were living people and they were martyrs. Does anybody have like and they're also kind of like spirit guides. Does anybody connect with anybody like that?
I can connect with my first babysitter.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
I call her Mama.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's awesome. See, chosen family. Anybody else? No one's ever had like a spirit guide, like someone from the past to like inspire them? Okay. Okay. Do you have a little altar for her?
I do.
Okay. I also like to call them beloved ones too, because even though you haven't met them or you don't have that connection, they are kind of people that we aspire to be. And I highly, if you don't like your family, these are great tools and resources to kind of use to step into that ancestral process. So family research. I asked about genealogy. The first step in working with the answers is you got to get some names and numbers. You got to get like who they were, your last names. I say go back some 1080. Where are you from? 1050 AD. The further back you can get, and getting those names written down is really important. It's kind of bringing them back to life because the dead like to be remembered. They like to hear their names. They like to know that they're just not vanished. Have you guys seen the movie Coco? It's very much like that. Like if you forget the names, they kind of, I believe, and this is just my belief, that they kind of dissipate, go away. And some of them are really cool. So I recommend getting both sets of your parents, their grandparents, and then their grandparents if you can. And then you can find out siblings, aunts, and uncles. I did on my dad's side, who's African American, he's from Georgia. On my dad's side alone, I'm one of 14,000 people in South Georgia, which is fucking crazy. They had a lot of babies. But a lot of them, you know, moved up north. Like a lot of them were really successful. So I feel really connected. And when I want to get through some shit, I'm having a hard time just like motivating myself. I like really draw on them to like, okay, come on, I have a really good life. Like I need to be appreciative for everything that my ancestors have done to get me to the point where I am right now. So say we get the obstacles. There's no information. I hit a wall at 1865. There's other resources you can use, but it is going to take time and money. And this isn't something that you can do over a weekend. This is like kind of a dedicated hobby, I will say, almost like a part-time job. I've been doing this for like almost a year, and it is traumatizing to say the least, because you're seeing, wow, this person was abusive. Like you're seeing a lot of the negatives that families go through that are possibly coming into this life right now. Does anybody have like dysfunctional families living right now? Okay. I mean, I got a good family now, but like, so the dysfunctional, abusive, I've heard some horror stories of, families who've sold their daughter to a slave trade, which I didn't even think was a thing in Nashville, but obviously you don't want to be connected to them, but skipping that generation and starting to do that research really helps heal that present family. I know it sounds crazy, but the more you kind of dig into your past, healing happens in the present, whether you start talking to your mom again or aunt and uncle or communicating again. And I feel like everyone's here because they're feeling called to work with their ancestors. So you guys are probably the ones have to take the lead on that family healing, especially if there's traumatic stories. Does anybody know if, I hear this a lot, my ancestors were slave holders or they were colonizers? Does anybody know if that's yeah?
I was actually about to ask about that. Like, I have farther back on my dad's side, like, records that they owned a slave, but it was still found in a human. How do you reconcile that?
You don't have to, and you don't have to communicate with them if you don't want to. The healing for me would be, I mean, you're not a slaveholder. You don't have, so like you're living your best life. You're doing the good work.
I feel like I've gotten back to shame, like
it feels icky. Then I would honestly look and see who, where was the plantation? What was the name of the slave? Like kind of have you been to your ancestral home or where they?
They actually lived in Cheatham County. So,
is the plantation still around?
No, and it wasn't a plantation.
Oh, okay.
Wealthy. They just had
slaves. Yeah, I mean that's very typical. If anybody's from here, like you don't be surprised if your family participated in that. I was in Germany and I have a lot of friends who they're like, yeah, my grandfather was a Nazi. Like I'm not a Nazi, and they're living their best life to not repeat that. But as long as you're not repeating what has been generally taught, that's a really good first step. And I would also try to look and see if you can find out who that slave was, maybe do like a thank you. It's simple things like that because, again, slave names were constantly changed and constantly forgotten. Does anybody else have? Yeah.
So I'm Native, and actually my grandmother lived on the reservation all her life. We had stories passed down from generations, and still some of the artifacts from our ancestors, such as handmade medicine bowls and arrowheads. But one of the ones that like struck me was got some of my family did walk with the Trail of Tears, and we did have
crazy.
A chief. So whenever I talk to my ancestors, I can feel the presence, I can almost hear the chants. But yeah, the Trail of Tears was a pretty big one for me.
Yeah, when you have that kind of like, that's a very traumatic event. Do you know any? So what's the Cherokee like afterlife like? Do you know anything about that?
To be honest, like I have different points of views on it, so I connect deeply with spirits and spiritual energies and ancestors, but it's just like breaking through a barrier of like figuring out what I like. What I do is I psych myself out. I'm like, okay, yes, that's a sign, but is it really a sign?
Oh, signs. We're gonna go over signs and synchronicities.
Show me a butterfly.
Yeah.
I see a butterfly. Was that really a butterfly?
You gotta stop.
So like my spirit guides and ancestors are probably just like, oh.
Girl, we're right here. I know. A lot of the signs are very like we logically don't tell ourselves that. That's like how we're programmed as human beings, especially in the West, to like, no, that's not it. But we'll go over signs because that's a very common way that ancestors get to talk to you, and only you know that. I don't know. I know when my family shows up, there's, I hear a train. I see golfing is a huge thing in my family, so I see a golf ball or something. Like I know that's them. I do not question that. But you kind of have to just own that, and it's owning your intuition and following your gut. If you feel like it's negative, then that's probably not it. But if you feel love and you're in a place of calm, you see a butterfly, that's probably them like, yo, I'm here. It's not going to be like they're in the corner like, oh, I'm here. Like, I think people are expecting those kind of reactions or those kind of signs are very obvious, but they're very subtle. But they happen consistently, especially when it comes to synchronicities and signs. It comes like numbers, music is a big thing for people. I always think of like technology. I don't know why, but I do feel like they show up on your phone or like you're scrolling through something, you just thought of it. It's very like, oh shit, I just thought of a song and it reminds me of my grandfather. Smells are a big thing too. Smells are a huge thing. That's only personal. So whether your grandmother wore something or she liked roses, you smell a rose, that's them. And that's also an intuitive trait. So can anybody smell spirits, I guess? That's fucking awesome. So like, what is it? How do you know it's a spirit and not just like a fart?
Really just happening since I was a kid. Actually, that was like the first kind of clear thing I can remember.
Okay.
But I'll just be like laying in bed, and then it'll be like, oh, there's chocolate chip cookies.
Chocolate chip cookies, yeah.
Nothing around me whatsoever that could smell like that. I kind of rule out like, is there any possible thing it could be, and then I'm like, okay, no, it's not. Then I know for a fact it's spirit.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
My grandmother, she was a heavy smoker, but she always smelled like cigarettes and Chanel.
That is very
like those two things, yeah, Chanel and cigarettes.
How did she pass?
An abundance of things.
Okay.
She didn't take care of herself. It was mainly cancer.
Okay. Lung cancer?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, breast cancer runs heavily in my family.
Okay. Oh, that's a good.
Was also a heavy
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yes.
I just thought I'd share this really quick.
Yeah.
Our grandmother passed a year ago,
Mhm.
and her name was Ruby. And we were so bummed out because we were a little late. We couldn't get a seat, and we were like, oh, and we're sitting right here, and then Ruby
See?
right here.
That's how. That is how they show up. I mean, this is also the spirit room. This room has a lot of like people who've not crossed over yet. But all this energy, I do feel like a lot of love is coming in. So which is awesome. And that's also how you should approach your ancestors with love. Like it is a work of love. You should be proud of your family, parts of your family, wherever it starts. Like you want to just love them and show that you're proud of where you're from. So let's talk about connecting with them. How do we connect? There's a lot of things, and different cultures have many different like rituals you can use. Day of the Dead, which is coming up. Samhain, if you practice paganism, is coming up. And that's honoring literally the Day of the Dead in Mexico. They go to the cemeteries, have feasts, offerings, just to remember them. just like the movie Coco. Samhain is the same. Everyone believes that the veil is thin at that time. So communicating with them, leaving messages is really easy at that time. I think it can happen all the time, but remembering birthdays and death days. So celebrating their birthday. I love using our zodiac candles, which is kind of strange, but if I know like my uncle's birthday is coming up, I'll get his zodiac candle and light it for him just to, celebrate. A death day is when they passed. Usually you can go to their grave. Do people like going to graveyards? What's everyone's opinion on graveyards? Yeah, I highly recommend if you're going to work with the dead, you got to go to where they're buried or their ashes are thrown. Especially their graves, to me, even outside of doing an altar, is so important. Keeping it clean, sending them flowers, talking to them. I have friends who go to their dad's grave on Father's Day. They literally have a whole dinner, talk to him, they'll leave the food for him. And it's just a really sweet way of just like remembering them and cleaning off the headstones. Yeah.
So like my dad just passed a few months ago, but I have his ashes in my house. Like, do I create like an altar to like?
Yeah, we'll go over altars too. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people carry their ashes with them. But an altar, I mean, this is like in my house every day. This is in the corner of my room. Well, I want to talk about altar placement too, because a lot of people don't think you should have your ancestor altar in your bedroom or there's certain areas of the house. But if you are privileged enough to have that space, sure, move it to another place. But I have roommates and I can't, they're in the bedroom with me. So there's no problem. There's no like rules to that. It's wherever you can place it. And it doesn't have to be big. Like sometimes people just have like a little shoebox and like whenever they want to honor them, they take it out from under the bed, light a candle and work with them there and talk to them. If you have to hide it, because I also know a lot of people have to hide their craft and working with the dead. Going to the graveyards, going to waters is also really important. Water is like a really good communicator with spirits. So if you take a picture with you, I like to light incense and I say a little prayer and I just like talk. I don't know. I feel like water helps deliver the message. Tennessee is full of awesome lakes, waterfalls, throwing their ashes in there. I like to burn messages. Actually, I'll show you this. So this is does everybody know what ancestor money is? So, and some cultures do this. Oh, I actually literally have a message on here. Some cultures, this comes from China. They probably have like the longest tradition of working with their ancestors. But this is they believe that it gives money in the afterlife. So, and it kind of comes back to you. So you're sending them a little bump and then it comes back to you. I like to write, what did I say? I want to thank my ancestors for watching over me. That's what I wrote with my name. I leave it on my altar and then when I go to the lake, I'll burn it so they get that message. Don't burn real money. People have done that and it's crazy. I also keep a piggy bank of like loose change for my ancestors, so they're helping me build my wealth, get me a house, whatever it is. Like they're watching over my financial situation, and it's always growing. Does anybody celebrate Samhain? Does everybody? So what do you guys do for Samhain? Am I putting you on the spot?
We're going, me and her and another, my sister-in-law are gonna go to the cabin in the woods.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's our first time.
Okay. And do you guys know who you want to honor?
I want to honor my grandmother.
Okay.
Probably my aunt.
Okay. Anybody else? Do Samhain or practice Day of the Dead? Okay.
I think people call it different things, but we essentially set up a dinner and we make a full plate and we leave the chair empty and we bring pictures of them and we just.
That's awesome.
And we try not to talk as much as possible to really let the message of the ancestors channel in.
That's a really cool idea. And what do you do with the food afterwards?
I let it sit for a day or two.
Uh-huh.
And I throw it to the land spirits in my home.
Yeah.
Because they can eat my home.
Yeah, when people are leaving offerings on your altar or whatever, don't leave it till it gets moldy. That's very disrespectful. Just give it to a tree. You know, nature will gladly eat it up unless it's like. I would not eat it. That's for them. Does that make sense? I mean, that's just, I don't know. Does anybody have a different opinion? Yeah, I would. I probably.
You're not supposed to necessarily consume it because like they essentially
Are taking it.
from it,
Yeah.
and then you can let it go back to nature.
Yeah, make yourself a big plate first, and then trust me. I mean, candy is a big thing. I'm like, damn, I want the Snickers bar, but I can. Yeah, like shit, I should just get it, and that's a big no-no.
I'm like, I wanted it.
Anybody else doing anything that they know of for like Day of the Dead or Samhain?
I always make, my family's from Appalachia,
Mm-hmm.
and actually only have one, my grandmother's buried here because this is where we live now, but every year on Samhain, I make cornbread and sweet tea.
Dang, that's so
and,
southern.
and I take it to her, and I talk to her, and I'll, give it to her, and it's hers.
That's awesome.
And then I'll come home and like make a bigger dinner and put it on my ancestor altar.
That's awesome. Should take some land or some dirt from.
I do. Actually,
Okay.
I don't have any. She wasn't cremated.
Okay.
But when I went home to Appalachia, I took some of her dirt and I put it like in a little ashes jar.
That's a very physical connection that you can have with you. I saw somebody else had their hand up. Oh yeah.
My dad is recently passed away, and I'm gonna take his ashes and I'm gonna go hiking and go find a really nice spot.
And let it go to the spirits. That's awesome. Sailor prayer. So there are some people have like rules on when you can add an ancestor to be remembered to your altar or however your practice is. Some people think it has to be a year. That's kind of typical in like Judeo-Christian. They want him to wait, and I think I forgot what else. There's some that just need like a 60-day period before they become spirits. And some people don't even put those who have died by addiction, suicide, or like a troubled death, murder, or a violent death on their altar. Does anybody have thoughts on that?
No, but I'm curious about it.
I will, yeah.
That's when they need ancestor elevation.
Yeah.
And they need healing.
Yeah.
So that works. So it's not that they can't.
Yeah, they just like a time of waiting.
Do the work to elevate them, to heal them, and you can do it even with them on your own.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. My person. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I had my grandpa who was an alcoholic. He came through not being wanting to connect, but he wanted to connect with my mom, and he kind of like glunk in, almost like that energy of like, and he, like, I think he actually did want to apologize. I think there was some feeling there that he needed to have to reconnect.
Did you heal it?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I let my mom know, and I let him go, and it was really cool. But he did. He had this weird, like, kind of shameful, like.
Usually, especially with addiction, I hate. So for me, for addiction, I have a lot of family members who've also passed from addiction, and they are not the disease. Like, addiction is a disease, and to be remembered by as an addict, to me, is not a celebration of life. If they were shitty people before the addiction, okay, that's different. But if it's a slow disease that cripples people. My cousin, I don't know. Oh, she's hiding. She passed from addiction, and she was the best fucking cousin ever. But everybody just remembers how she died. Heroin overdose. That's all they ever talk about, and it kind of is like a shame. And if you're putting more shame onto that, and they're kind of stuck. I do believe when we are embarrassed or shameful about someone's death, they do stay stuck. But if we can remember the celebration of their life, is way more important, and it kind of relieves that sadness, both for the family, like present, because it's hard to lose somebody watching them die. Same with suicide. Suicides to me is another, depression is a very sad disease that does not get talked about. There's not a lot of resources for a lot of people out there, so it's a very isolating fact, and it totally like hides who they were as a person. Yeah.
So could that explain why certain family members come to a certain person because the rest of their family has kept them in shame?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and also if you guys are feeling that way, it's because you were intuitive. They know that there's something about you guys that is they can talk to, because no one else maybe practices or no one else is like trying to hear that. Are you?
You just kind of like brought on something about like how the dead sometimes, they have done something wrong, and it just kind of brought me to, excuse me, I'm choked up because I know that I did something wrong to someone who is now passed.
Okay.
And it's like I thought I knew what I was doing, and I thought that I was grown, and it was years ago. I was in my early 20s. I'm 29 now, and so like I just said some really horrible things to this person, and then all of a sudden we find out he has COVID, and he passed away from that, and so I never got to really like apologize for it, but we had talked, and the energy was like, it was weird, but it was kind of like I kind of knew you were going through something, like they knew that I was going through stuff.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure myself out, and so I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, and that's a.
About it, and I was like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's time. I mean, I'm going to say it's probably time to heal that. And it's not. You can't carry that weight anymore.
Yeah.
It's probably too much, and they don't look at you like that. Only you're probably thinking that. So, getting, lighting a candle for them, saying a prayer for them, and telling them what you just said is a really good way to kind of release that. I think we carry a lot of blame or shame or guilt about maybe how sometimes people pass that they're not thinking like that at all. And if you do feel that weight, it's time probably for you to do some healing work and let them go and celebrating life. That's like all this really is about. Yeah. No, girl, go. I like this.
What is Alzheimer's like in the relation to life and death? Because it can feel like your loved one's gone.
Yeah. Alzheimer's is a tricky one. I mean, so they die naturally. Again, you want to remember them when they were at their 100%. If anybody has seen anybody go through Alzheimer's and watch that decline, it is devastating. Like, it is very, very hard. They don't remember. I would say, honestly, the spirit, when they pass over, I don't believe they remember that last part of their life. A lot of times they're coming back like 20-year-olds. They're happy. They're living their best life. So they don't even remember what they were like. So know that too. I've had a lot of people who, when they come back to me as a younger person, I'm like, okay, they don't like, whatever happened to them as an older person, that's not how they remember them. They remember themselves as like hot or like ballin' or something like that. Does anybody have contact with their ancestors? Does anybody like, yeah. So yes, you do. I love this.
That's actually my biggest part of my practice. I talk to them every single day.
Okay.
And I do get pretty like solid messages, and I kind of feel like it's kind of daunting sometimes. Cause like I was always the black sheep of the family, but I feel like they're kind of, I don't want to say they like jumped on me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're probably really into. I mean, they latch on to those who have, who are sensitive to energies. And there's probably more messages they're trying to. Maybe there's something more that you need to research about or some more digging to find out. Because usually they shouldn't be around unless like you're calling. That's why I set up time my Batman beacon when I need them. Otherwise, they're just chilling and they're cool. So if you feel like an invasion of spirits or of the family, there's probably like, yo, something's off, something's wrong. Figure this out.
I'm not good at boundaries.
Oh. Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's another thing too, is setting boundaries with your ancestors. It's great that they're there, but like if you are sensitive, you need crystals or however it is that you set your boundaries. It has to happen because it can be overwhelming, and it also invites, the troubled spirits. I do feel like a lot of the troubled spirits, those who have passed, latch onto those who are intuitive because they know that you can help them. But if you're not ready for that, then it's going to be overwhelming. It's almost drowning. You probably have anxiety. It's like, what's going on with me? Things just aren't adding up because you're not setting boundaries. And a boundary is, it could either, you did a salt circle. It's very good. I love working with salt. It's very powerful, easy protection. I like using crystals. I tell my ancestors like when I need them and when I don't, but I've been working with them for a very long time. I'm almost 40, so like it's they know. But if you're beginning with this, you should already start with like protection, and then slowly baby step into who you want to work with. And also pick one family member. If this is someone's first time, pick like mom's side or dad's side, because it can get overwhelming the more information you find. And it gets exciting, but you might just be like, oh my God, all these people are here. You don't know who they are. Like, baby step it and take it gently. Altar shrines, honoring, communicating. So that's the next step. How we can see signs, how we can communicate with them. They're everywhere. One is if you want to go to a medium or somebody that is experienced in talking to them, that's always a good step. I also recommend divination. Using a pendulum is really, really solid. Again, but using those, you have to have a set boundary protection. So you're not inviting, you have to make sure that like, this is who they are. Pendulums are great because you can make sure, has anybody not worked with a pendulum? Does anyone not know what a pendulum is? Everyone's aware. You don't know a pendulum? Okay, so I wish we had one. Here, actually, I can use it like this. It's basically, something on a string, and I calibrate mine to say, show me my yes, show me my no, and then you start asking it questions, and we'll say yes or no. So, is this my grandmother? Okay, what do you have to ask it yes or no questions. You can't ask it like, what are you thinking about today? But you have to also make sure that is who that person is. So if you're unfamiliar with that, there's something that you're not working with, and I would say lay off on the pendulums. Tarot is also really good, working with oracle decks. We have angels. We have a ton of oracle decks that help you connect with your ancestors and get like real guided messages, so you're not like left to your own devices like, what the fuck does this mean? Because that can be really confusing. And you can set your oracle deck just for your ancestors, or set your tarot deck just to communicate with them. And the more you use it, the stronger communication will be, and the stronger those messages will be. Just if you need clarification, I do that once a month just to make sure like I'm not missing anything. And I do not let anybody touch that deck. I do not read anybody with that deck besides me. And it's gotten stronger. So I know when this card's coming, I'm like, I know the voices, but it does take time. Dreams. I would say the first and foremost thing is they come to you in your dreams. But that means you gotta start remembering your dreams. Start not listening to you can get a dream book and be like, oh, okay, the cat means this. There's usually other things in dreams that are a part of what their messages is. Does anybody, so I'm just gonna give you an example. I would have dreams of flying in a castle, and for me, that was them watching over me. I knew that they were watching over me. It wasn't anything big, but I'm like, okay, I'm being loved. I'm watching over me. If I see clouds or a castle in my dream, I know that like that means I'm probably not feeling good about myself. I'm down, and they're like, just look up. We love you. You're loved. Does anybody have dreams? Yes, that's a big one. Yes, go on.
Me.
Hmm?
So right after some of my significant family members died, like after my grandmother passed away, after my mom passed away, like within a week after they passed, I ended up like seeing them and them telling me that like they're okay. And then like usually when I wake up from a dream, there'll be like something about the dream that's like stuck in my head, like something that I saw in the dream, and it's like, okay, like the other day it was like paper.
They're like little breadcrumbs, yeah. Like not a full message, and that's what they're kind of gonna. Right after someone passes, usually they do come to you in a dream. I will say that, just to say that they're okay, or if they know that you're really grieving, that is very common. But then they'll start leaving breadcrumbs. So paper, to me, I'm like contracts. I don't know, homework. I don't know if you're a student, but you should just write that down, because there'll be more things, even if it's like cat lunch with the landlord. Like there's something with that the message will come, but you have to be taking notes. Like this is, again, something that's not all going to happen in one night. Does anybody have dream journal? Okay. Do you guys?
I feel like I do. all the time. My dad comes to me a lot.
Okay.
In my dreams.
And what are his messages?
Well, most of the time up until just recently, we would just get together and do the things that we normally did together, like go estate sailing and stuff.
Okay.
And talk about things and have a great day and eat lunch, and then usually the end, they're like, let's do it again tomorrow, and I'm like, we can't because you're dead. But the most recent one, I had a confrontation, and it was really hardcore.
Okay.
And I told him I don't ever want to see him again, and I was like, when I woke up, I'm like, oh, yeah.
I'm sure they don't, but especially when you're doing stuff in the past that you used to do, it's probably wanting you to go do that again. Like it probably made you happy, made you calm. There's probably something in your life, but you need to kind of like touch, like get in tune with your inner child. Or I don't know how old you were, but something to like reconnect with that like easiness about life, that maybe you're making things harder than they shouldn't be. Does that make sense? Okay. Not to, yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
There was a time where I had a dream of my great grandmother who's Haitian, and my mother that same night had a dream. We both had like white horses in the dream, and she was there as well. My mom's not spiritual at all, but it was like a warning kind of, like, and then there was nothing that happened with the white horse, so I guess the warning worked.
Well, I would keep that in mind if you feel like that, and that's your gut telling you like something might be off, but I wouldn't take it literally like a white horse. I don't know what horses mean, like endurance and stamina, but you should take note of that and continue. If people have like trouble remembering their dreams or like dreaming, there's teas. Drinking more water is really powerful and kind of like helping just to get your brain into tuning into that, because that's when your subconscious is the most awake. And that's when you're like most able to hear what they want from you. And the more you do spiritual, the more you work with your ancestors, you're going to start dreaming a lot of weird shit, a lot. And you're going to have to decipher, is this real life or is this like me having an anxiety dream or whatever. But just know like coincidences, dreams are going to be way more constant because you're tapping into an energy that hasn't been tapped. You're kind of removing a blockage that no one probably has done before. So signs and synchronicities. Again, we talked about smells, but there's way more. Numbers are a huge thing. Numbers are like, I don't know why, I feel like it's very easy for spirits to kind of just make you look down at your phone. You're like, 222, oh shit, or whatever it is. I tell people when I read them, don't even think about like what that number means, like 222. You think about what it was you were thinking about when you saw that number. Because that's probably like, oh shit, I always say this, should I get a pizza today? You see that? Yes, okay. And that might just mean you need to be fed. You know, it's like simple things like that. Are you nourishing yourself? Or maybe you should go to the mall, have some fun. Should you get this drink? It's all very like, they're not going to be like, oh my God, you know, here's $1 million. But they're very small, like daily things. But you kind of have to like listen and tune in and like slow down your thoughts. I think a lot of times we overthink and we don't want to believe. And that's why I asked you guys in the beginning, like if you believe in the afterlife, so there is a belief there. So you got to believe that they're trying to connect with you. And like they are really easily accessible. And the more you do this type of work, the stronger signs, synchronicities, things might just come up for you. I feel like the flow of like how your life goes becomes a lot easier too. You become more powerful. Opportunities kind of start coming up more money comes your way. So we all come from, if anyone doesn't know, this is just science, like 200,000 years ago, a woman named Lucy from East Africa. All human beings have that same genetic DNA. When you go like to that realm, to me, there's something like earth, like healing on that level, where it's like either working with healing the earth, healing the energy, something shamanic about it, because obviously it's such a far disconnect, like we've all changed and evolved in different ways, but there's something that humans need to get back to, maybe instinctual, animalistic kind of vibes. That makes sense. That's really dope. Yeah?
To that point, there's a great book. I actually bought it from here, Ancestral Medicine.
Yeah, I have.
Really awesome.
Yes.
But when reading that book and kind of doing some of those exercises, I feel when we are going back further in our ancestral lineage, it is because those are the most benevolent spirits to help us heal the line coming forward. So that was, when you said that, it just made me think.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah.
So, I do feel spirits often, but I kind of, like, I studied the different types of how you perceive spirits because I'm kind of confused at, like, where I'm at, because if I'm talking to someone, I don't physically see it, but I can feel it, but I see the pictures in my head. So whenever I say it, like, I'll be like, oh, color blue, like, blue hat, was she wearing a blue hat? You know, stuff like that makes sense. Or I'll, like, be drawing, I'll close my eyes with my candles and my crystals, and then I just start drawing something that doesn't make any sense.
No, it does. That's like Tyler Henry. You guys watch him? I love him.
I just don't know like exactly what category it would be in. Like my friend, her friend passed away, suicide, jumped off a bridge. I had no clue about it. Was drawing, drew a bridge.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what this means to you.
Well, that's annoying. I mean, that's annoying. Like you're tuning in and you're getting those messages downloaded. I feel. I don't see them. It's almost like they come into my body and I feel like the love, the warmth, the drunkenness, whatever it is. Like it just. But the more. There you go, clear cognizance. Oh, you're multiple things. Heck yeah. Yeah, multiple things. You can hear, you can smell. I think it's so cool people can smell things. That's something I can't do. You can. So I feel like you hear. It comes within your body like an emotion. And that is on your intuitive development. Like I highly suggest if you guys haven't started doing that, you should start your intuitive development because the more you use it, the stronger it gets. It's like a muscle. But if you pretend like it's not there and you push it away, or there's a fear base, especially when it comes to the dead, it's just gonna honestly probably drive you crazy or bring a chaotic type of life because you're not tuning into a natural gift that you probably all have, but it's kind of creating an imbalance. Okay, I feel like I'm 1 minute. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes.
Is it possible to have like ancestors that like come from different solar systems?
Oh my gosh, I wanted to talk about that so bad. I believe in that. Yes, I do. I believe in Pleiadians. I believe that our ancestors from the future can contact you. That is on some extraterrestrial stuff, like. But that's a whole nother class. I could talk for hours. That is. But yes, that is definitely a way to also connect. I didn't even go there because I get really excited about that stuff. Did you have a question?
I was gonna say, what were you saying about the bedroom or like where you place your altar?
Oh, to me, I'm very practical. Wherever you can, you should place it. I do not. Some people again don't believe they should have it facing your bed because they're watching you have sex or like. I do not, but again, I set boundaries. Like my shit is protected, like girl. Yeah, no, they are in that corner and they're typed in. Yeah.
If ancestors are on like multiple shrines, they just switch the channel. They're like, oh, their bedroom's full.
Yeah, they're not trying to watch you, but there is something. Yeah.
Are there certain elements or things that you feel are best to be included?
Oh yeah, I didn't even talk. Yeah.
Because I would have no clue where to start.
Fire, candle, incense for air, water or a drink, and then I have crystals. I use hydron in almost everything, so I have a big hydron root. And then things, that's the last thing I want to say, is things that remind you of them. So my family worked in railroads, so I have railroad spike. My family is really big on golf, so I have golf stuff. And my altar is living. I'm always changing it out. Like when I also showed them accomplishments that I've done, I just got my business card, so I put that on there. I'm like, look at what I got. Like, you know, I'm sharing it with them. I'm not just, you know, I change out the food, but, and then people put alcohol. A lot of people put, you know, but again, my family has alcoholism, and so they do not drink until I give them, you know, a celebration for a birthday. And I kind of set those rules. But water, something with fire, and fire doesn't have to keep going all the time. That's only when I need them. I light incense, and yeah, and keep it clean. Oh, keep your house clean. They don't, I mean, it's your family, so if you're gonna have them in your house, that means you should keep a clean house and a clean altar. That's very important because you're gonna get messy. Yeah. Yes.
What are the other pieces there, like the dagger and the...
So this is my form. This is a protection for me. I do feel like I have a lot of like gangster spirits. I have some uncles that were in jail for the mafia, and I use them for protection. So I give them something strong to protect me. My family's also very Catholic. I grew up Roman Catholic, so they love saints. This is just an African deity. You know, yeah. It's just this is like personal. I see it. I'm like, oh my God, they would be perfect for me. Don't break your bank on it, but it will slowly grow as you add. But definitely pictures. And if you don't know who your ancestors are, that's the last thing. Sorry, I keep saying that. Empty picture frame. Empty picture frame. You can put. I work with blood, so I put empty picture frame with blood, my little blood dot on there, just so whoever DNA attached to me is there. Or you can write down the last names of the family if you don't want. If you're not unsure about where that DNA comes from, for those who don't have pictures or you're just not sure. So, yeah.
Well, probably last question. For your blood type, when you do that, are you only calling in?
I'm calling anybody that's related to me by blood. Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So, when you say the boundaries, are you saying boundaries for only benevolent ancestors?
Yes, but again, my altar is very protected, so ain't nobody coming in. And plus, my ancestors who I do work with are not going to allow that shit coming in. But so that's just to kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, I guess I'm out of time. Thank you guys.